I am a wind, tugging your lips, stretching them into a smile. Do you feel my touch, the way I, the wind, move across your skin? Goosebumps. I am a word, undefined as a Muganda you were warned never to marry. Do you see my struggle in the way my nose bends, refusing those names? Do you see what I am? A thought on your lips, your words, a sound that swirls in the ears like the absence of thunder in a storm, yet holding the majesty of a whisper, a form of me. Do you see me? Do I see me? You? I went on a date. The girl was lovely. I thought I was also on point. After a few weeks, a month, they told me, yeah, I'm a Muganda. And it hurt me. Because also, when I go back through my lineage, I also question my own Chigandaness. Different things are being said about my grandfather, my great-grandfather, who I'm starting to believe he was also a Munyarwanda, who really came and put himself in the shoes of Kabaka Daudi Chwa, and he was one of the unsaid or unwritten regiments of Kabaka Daudi Chwa. And so when you read a lot of, or when you hear about his history, or when you see a lot of his properties, he was one of the people who were given Mitiana districts. So once upon a time, we were the owners of Mitiana district. But once upon a time. So the poem came with that longing of trying to understand who I am, but also why I was rejected. Omukazi Nalubale. Nalubale is the name given to Lake Victoria, but also unsaid Nalubale is the female god, or depending on where you are leaning, you can also the female demon. Either way, but it is the Lake Victoria. The name given, the name the Bakanda gives to Lake Victoria. Omukazi Nalubale. Be wary of the one you meet, for jail still carries her tent peg, and the woman of Zabel still lifts her millstone, and Delilah still holds her scissors. It is said, without women, a revolution dies. Martha feeding the Savior and his rugrats, and Abigail saving David and his savages, and the Shunammite woman, her house, a refuge for the mad poets. And slave girls whisper cures of leprosy. Be wary, for a woman, life will hold meaning, and death will find its justification. Listen, the chants of Winnie Mandela cover the stadium as a nation mourns. I am a good Christian. No one says that I am, but I know I am. I grew up in a Christian family. There's nothing else to believe but being a. I've looked around and I've decided it's too hard and painful to change. So I'm a good Christian, and the more I read the Bible, the more it is interesting to find that women keep being erased in history, in stories, and yet you find that they are the pins of how things change. And so when you read the book of Judges, the first stanza of this poem, it's women who are found in the book of Judges. And you see how they don't really call them judges, or it is hard to find a pastor who preaches about them. Right? And yet you find how they keep serving the the nation of Israel over and over. Even Delilah, who was a Philistine, and we will say she kind of humbled a strong man, but without her humbling him, a man would have killed his own nation. Martha, if you're a good Christian, you will know Martha. But also Abigail was interesting for me because in David's trying to be a good rebel, where he was not really fighting the government, was fighting wars on part of the government that really was not paying him and wanted to kill him. At one point he was almost dying, and the woman saves his entire campaign. And so you can only say that he became a king because he was saved by a woman. And Winnie Mandela, we don't say enough about what she did for South Africa. Okay? And we keep praising Mandela. We need to, but also what about the woman who stayed and held fort when he was in prison? The woman who stayed and liberated the nation. So the poem came to me because I was thinking about women. When you are single, you will think about women a lot. So forgive me. The next poem is called In the Darkness of the Night. It's about women. I did not plan this, guys. I did not plan this, but somehow it just happened. The poem I chose were all about women. But in the darkness of the night, I once met a woman in bed. She wore nothing but the full reach of my eyes. Her voice, the low moaning of a lake thick with swell, filled my thoughts. My tongue stilled behind my teeth, tasting iron, as the body answered. She shifted before me, changing color like restless light, the roof lifting with sound. Perhaps it is my heart insisting on a rhythm my lungs could not keep, asking for patience, I no longer held. I once met a woman, naked, bent in the bathroom, her back a long valley where sweat gathered and began its slow descent. One drop, then another. I watched them, touching my skin. I hear her moans, the resounding leg drowning the need for air, the crown of her head reaching back into my eyes. My hand up and down, my eyes slow, searching the softness of her moans, feeling the wetness like cotton in the coolness of the night, the expanse of my imagination. It's my breath, the heart races. She moves faster, her position shifting, blocking the light from the room until only the suggestion of her mouth remains before my eyes. Her lips closer, her breath sweet. I met a woman in the failing light of thought, in the place where the night outlasts the body that forgets itself. My hand down and up, my eyes searching the womb of darkness, a quickening, breath chokes, the lungs swell. Only me, alone with the emptiness of satisfaction that had made her. So, this poem was written, I used to run poetry meets where people come, gather, we sit, and we have a theme for the night. So on August 21st, 2022, the theme was sex. Yes. Let's discuss sex, and we did. We discussed sex for like an hour. Okay? And then afterwards, we are told, or I tell people to write a poem based on what we have discussed for 10 minutes. So you write whatever you think a poem is. And after you write a poem for 10 minutes, we give what you have written to someone else to read it so that the group listens to what you have written, and will judge you based on the theme, based also on the structure, especially if you say you a poet. But mostly, we'll look at language, how have you used language. And so this poem was born out of that. But I wanted to look at sex differently, where sex was masturbation. And I asked myself, Elijah, you have done this. How, I don't laugh. How can you put it on paper? And what I did was I decided to objectify a woman. So when I say I once met a woman, it was that, what the mind does. Eh? But also at the end, alone with the emptiness of satisfaction is, there's no satisfaction in objectification. Eh? It is short-lived. So, guys, don't masturbate. It's bad. But anyway, that's the poem.
She was not real, the woman.
No.
Hey, she sounded real.
Well, that's the point. That's the point. For satisfaction, you need to make it real. But after that, the emptiness comes. So, in I think either 2019 or beginning of 2020, I attended a workshop where we were discussing mythologies, and mostly Chintu and Nambi. And we are looking at it from an activist point of view. How do we use myth as a way of activism? And we looked at the mythology of Chintu and Nambi, which is what we are told when we are young, that's how Buganda came to be. And we looked at it from different perspectives, from a feminist perspective, from all others' perspective, from a religious perspective. And that workshop stayed with me. And I've been thinking about it for so long. So the people who do not know the mythology, I'm going to read the abridged version of it. It's not the right one, because there's no right one. Everywhere you go, everyone will tell you. Yes. So the entire thing is called Okuitwa. But also before I read it, I attended, and this is just food for thought. I visited a friend in his office, and we were talking about so many things. He has kids who are almost my age. And we talked about legacy, or what gifts do you leave your children? Eh? And he asked me like, so should I leave? He's a bit wealthy, so he said, should I leave my kids this building, the building which housed his office? Should I leave them this building? Should I leave them the house he had built, or the numerous houses he had built? Then I told him, why not? You're going to die and you're going to live there. He said, yes, but you see, my children will break down these houses and these buildings. They will sell them off. Would I have left them anything if they sell them off? And he said, I have thought about a story. I think we should start leaving our children our stories, and because that is the only thing that can last. Our stories, our family trees, so that they too can add onto that stories, so that they can pass them on. Which was interesting because I've been searching for my family story, that weird family story. And so even when I was writing this, it is a story of a family, of a family that did something to a stranger, who also became part of their family, and then the Uganda family came to be, and all those things. So I'm expanding this collection. This is not just the only poems that I'm writing in this collection, but the next phase of this collection is going to be mostly about my family, but also having traces of this story. So I start with a quote from a book that I really, really love. I have seen so many young men over the years who think they are running at other young men. They are not. They are running at me. End of quote. This is said by Death, the narrator of the book Thief. In the novel, death is not a killer, but a collector, gathering those who have died. It's a gruesome task, and he laments how war is a terrible master, one that overworks him. So the book is also set during World War II. Very interesting book and movie, because you can go and watch it. So let's get into the story. The story of Nambi and Chintu is one many of us grow up hearing, told by grandmothers to their grandchildren. It is the story of the first Muganda, Chintu, who lived with a cow he loved deeply. He did not milk it, instead he fed it on its dung and drank its urine. One day, the children of Gulu, who lived in the heavens, came down to earth. They found Chintu with his cow. Nambi admired him, while her brothers, Walumbe and Kayikuzi, watched with curiosity and suspicion. Seeing the cow, one of the brothers took it and brought it to Gulu in the heavens. Chintu had no choice but to follow. His search for his beloved led him to the heavens, where he stood before Gulu. There, he was tested again and again, but he passed every trial. In the end, Gulu gave him back his cow and permitted him to marry Nambi. But he gave them a strict warning. When they returned to earth, they must not come back for anything they had forgotten. But along the way, Nambi realized she had forgotten the chicken feed. Against Gulu's command, they returned to retrieve it. It was then Walumbe saw them and insisted on going with them to earth. On earth, life began to unfold. Nambi and Chintu had children, and for a while all was well, but Walumbe, true to his nature, began to demand one of their children. When they refused, he took them away. Death entered the world like this, quietly at first, then without restraint. Chintu pleaded with Gulu, who sent Kayikuzi to bring Walumbe back to the heavens. Kayikuzi tried, chasing him across the land, but Walumbe evaded him, slipping into the earth in the caves of Tanda, into the ground itself, where Kayikuzi would not follow. And so Walumbe remained, no longer just a visitor, but a presence rooted in the world. Death was no longer everywhere. It had found a home among the living. The story, as you know it, Walumbe is a Green Reaper. This collection is going to argue against that. I hope you have questions and answers for my questions, and I have answers for your questions. The first poem is titled Poem 55. In a land far away lived a man, Chintu, his beloved cow, the pearl upon his eye, the light within his shadow. He walked with his cow, bathing it, feeding it, never milking it. They are born, sacred. One day, the children of God visited the land. Nambi, their sister, desired Chintu, as a drunkard desires the quad. In the grim darkness of night, they stole Chintu's cow. How can a man love a cow, they asked, and not our sister? The morning came, but the light was gone. Thank you. The second poem, Ebisisinkano by'abasatu. Ebisisinkano by'abasatu means, yes. Woo. If a body dies, one, cracked, groaning before the setting sun, isn't it strange that the sun never shouts, nor whispers its tiredness? What emptiness remains in a man without a soul? There is a death as soft as a feather, the death of a bird that does not know death by name. Crows would not gather for such a person, and doves, made for easy lives, would say it plainly. There is the death passionate men There's a death passionate men endure. This is the death of women whose innocence is treaded. In the sun, a feather sets. A feather sets. So this poem was written to set up Walumbe as death. So that's why it is filled with death. But also I wanted to talk about death in not just the end of life, but a different kind of death on every single level of life. So hence, the things that passionate men endure, because they keep giving themselves to these things while ending themselves at the same time. The death of innocent women that is treaded. Yes. But also, I tried to use the crow and the dove, because everywhere you go, mostly in culture and tradition, you'll see crows are always made to be symbols of death, and doves the symbol of the Holy Spirit, because I told you I'm a Christian. So. and also, when you are filled with the Holy Spirit, does that not mean that there's the death of the old person? So, the second poem, or the third poem. Ebigambo bya Kayikuzi ku muganda we. The words of Kayikuzi to his brother. I found a snort for death against the border man, the weight of the road in my lungs, and the thought of bed and not dragging me. Prayer coats these lips, a life lived on the go, for there is more to do, more to accomplish. Walumbe sits by the roadside, a witness to the wobble of a man holding on to another, a payment for the ride. The road stretches towards dreams, desires that feed only the ground, and oil. And Walumbe prepares for evening. The road's weight carries me towards his watering hole. I think I don't need to say anything about that poem. Poem 4, Okuitwa kwa Walumbe. This is a play on two things. Okuitwa kwa Walumbe is trying to say the purpose of Walumbe, or Walumbe's purpose, but also Walumbe's calling, where calling is not purpose, but what has been called of him. It is the smallness of your heart that burns with a hunger heavy as the sun, said Walumbe. It consumes you, yet you still point at me with your lips parched like cracked roads in Sahara. What do I become? Now my bar loud with breathing of failure, with thirds of incomplete assignments and the weight of gold and earth. At the end of this labor, I dream of a shark beyond the galaxies of nothingness. But a shove I hold with earbuds driven deep and a chorus in my throat to drown out bodies lost of vigor and souls young with frowns of skin. Rest upon this bar for a while as I dig a resting place for you. In this poem, I try to imagine Walumbe doing a job that he was never given. And I imagined him as a bartender. And everyone who dies, or whose dream is dead, or who is tired, goes to him. And this is Walumbe. Walumbe is arguing and saying, how you think of me is a smallness of your heart. It's the limitation of your imagination. It's not me, but also, he's also trying to talk about how tired he is, and that when the end comes, he will also go somewhere where there are no thoughts of men and women limiting him. Poem 5, Omulanga gwa Walumbe. This one can be the outcry for help of Walumbe, but also just the shout for Walumbe. But this one is the outcry of Walumbe. In myth, bound by history, a crust of your fear, songs, stories, and poems crafted, cementing my being into monuments of hatred that bind me till now. Walumbe zaya tulumya bwati, bakaba basajja botagumbula otyo. And millions danced, lungs burning with tears of regret, to the words of a man whose falsehoods wore a suit and a hat, carrying a jitter, hawking fame. Sit. You have come to this tale through your desire. Drink hard, drink smoothly. That is the obsession of a heart, dwindling of a soul. At the very beginning, I was a son, a brother, our crime, if one can call it that. Our sister's desire led us to steal a man's cow. And her obsession with chicken led me to babysit her children, which I am still doing. You are her children, and my song lulls you to dreams, to rest. For that's the work my father designed me to do. In this rest, sweat is but a memory of desires, Sahara-cracked nightmares, becoming dust at my song. So, there's a song by the late Prince Job Café called Walumbe Zaya. Actually, I really don't know what Zaya means. Should look into that. But it's a 13-minute song. I want to call it a ballad, but it's the other side of it's a sad song. The man is lamenting and talking about Walumbe and what Walumbe does or is doing. And that Luganda part, Walumbe Zaya, atukola bwati bakabasajja botukumbula otyo. It was very interesting for me when I listened to that song over and over, why he talks about the wives and what Walumbe is doing for them, as if the wives cannot defend themselves against Walumbe. So, but in here, Walumbe is accusing Manya to do in this poem really is talking about the different facets of the stories, how we use stories to misidentify things, and we carry them forward from our from our ancestors to now. Anyway, one day, I hope I'll publish this poem. Okuwozaako kwa Walumbe. In this poem, or the title of the poem, Okuwozaako kwa Walumbe, is Wamanyi oluzungu munyambeko, okuwozaako kye ki?
His defense.
I told you so. The defense of Walumbe. So he's defending himself. O daughter of the heavens, Alua black was your skin, now turned to these my misgivings. Yours was a womb from which a river flowed, and from it a people, a kingdom called of a man whose only skill was the cow, the pearl upon his eye. O daughter of the heavens, you have carried sin from the beginning, and your children carry the burden. Your lineage the good book has forgotten. O daughter of the heavens, who grew up without a mother, how did you learn to be one? I, your brother, became your blame. I, the shame your children have carried. I, the cry in the kingdom of the man of the cow, covering the hearts of all men. I, your brother, with a job, luring your children to sleep. The man is trying to defend himself, or Walumbe is trying to defend himself, but also he's trying to apologize to his sister, the shame he has become. Okay? But also in there, going back to the poem about Omukazi Nalubale, is also trying to talk about how, again, women are being left out in the story. Because, again, and there's a line where he says, the kingdom named. It is interesting in Buganda, they say Abanaba Nambi. Abanaba Nambi. So the children of Nambi. All the Baganda are the children of Nambi, but the kingdom belongs to who? Chintu, to the man. Isn't it interesting? But also, we never ask ourselves, how did Nambi get to know how to mother children? Because her mother is never mentioned in the story. It seems Guru, who was a god, split himself. I think the Christians are right. Guru split himself and gave birth to two boys and one girl. So, we Christians are right. Because God also is 3 in 1. Yes. And he said, let's make man in our own image. And he made them two. So I don't, yes.
No, it's really crazy, those similarities between Christianity and this story of Chintu Nambi.
Yes.
Because you said in the poem, you carried sin from the beginning. The sin of going back for the chicken feet, right?
Yes.
And then with Adam and Eve, she carries sin from the beginning because she ate the apple, right?
Yes.
And do you know if these two legends were created at the same time? Why is it that the mother is sinning and the mother carries sin and she gives sin to her children and the children must carry it and they can only be reborn through Christianity and then God will forgive the sin? It's insane.
I really wish I had the answer. Because also the book of Proverbs is somewhere there where it blames the mother.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I just believe. I'm a good believer. But that is one of the things I'm trying to explore within language. How, and when I talk about language, I'm not talking about what we used to speak, but how it is formed. And that means how thought is formed. And so that means how have we interrupted or interacted with religion? And when I talk about religion, I'm not just talking about Christianity or Islam. I'm talking all the other religions, even the one where people say I don't believe, because no one doesn't believe. Everyone believes something. Either you believe yourself, that means the hierarchy of your moral compass is yourself, or money. That becomes your religion. And how does that inform or shape the way you talk and also think? I don't know. But
maybe someone knows. Someone has the answers to your questions, no?
I think so.
Yes, I'd just like to add, my name is Timothy. I'm a historian of Ugandan culture and myth. And my friend, Professor Henri Medin, has actually shown that due to colonial Christian influence, certain Ugandan myths were...
Like I said, I'm the only son whose father looks like him. You cannot say that I look like my father. You do not know my father. You know me. So my father looks like me to you. Because I'm the reference. So because I look like my father, or my father looks like me, there is a certain burden that is heaped on me that I think I'll never be like my father. I am as erratic and rebellious. Whereas things have changed, but he was a very composed man who I have never seen him argue or raise his voice, my sisters or my mother. And me, I thought I was a defect because my friend, yes. My mother said this, I said the other. My voice can go a little bit high. So anyway, so most of the poems I'm going to read are in that context. Either the fear of growing old, or the fear of trying to understand who my father is. You will feel the tinge of fear in there also. Poem 44. The question, who is my father? Now I am taller, darker, my muscles stout. A feeble man looms before my light. On the edge of light I crawl, fingers stretching, yet I am fixed in this worship. I'm reminded of him, the bark and the laugh and the smile, the silence and the hearty laugh. Those evenings, a haze of lamplight and his voice echoing from his chair. Did you do your math numbers I left you with? His voice. Your father has come back. Come wash his socks. Those evenings went on and on. Now I am old. Across his seats. When are you getting a wife? Should I leave this earth without grandchildren of my own? A man who all said looked like me, whose face I inherited, his character absent. For I have fought with a woman. I still raise my voice. My raids always shimmering, erupting in bouts. I remember him, the wild bear men feared, the tender fluffy safety the wounded ran to. Now, his fire warns. I was trying to capture my father at the time he is when, after suffering 3 strokes, and the difference of the man I grew up seeing and who he is now, where he cannot take care of himself. And that is strangely frightening to me. Poem 40. Something happens when the hand of light claps the hand of darkness in a familiar grip. A handshake as mysterious as air diffusing in your lungs or images forming on your retina. When in darkness, seated and coiled, or sturdy and standing, you feel complete. And when bathed in light, completeness fills your mind. But when a crack appears, and it always does, one hand reaching out to another, a shadow is formed. A man standing in the dark is the same as a man standing in the light. He cannot see his own back, only by seeing his shadow. And this is the last poem of the evening. Woo! Whee! It's staff being here. Woo. Poem 48. Namatovu, like the fireplace, your Jaja Nareiso lies in her living room. She would want warmth accompanying her on her journey to God. I heard that whisper, like many such whispers that traversed that night. The backcloth that lined Nareiso's body. Maybe it is the same as the linens that warped Christ in the dark. My name is Bwojji, son of Nteyafa, who married Nabulia, son of Kalibala, who breathed his last in Manya he was buried. O Abraham, friend of God, in the annals of this lineage you are missing. But how you are remembered is how I remember Luwalala, buried in Manya, where I too will sleep. Namatovu, don't you know you are the first daughter of the daughters of Nareiso? Culture demands you give warmth by your hearth. In her compound, one last time, I heard this whisper. So this poem is, I lost my grandmother. I think the mother that gives birth to my father, I think 2 years or 3 years ago. And I always, in Chiganda, when death occurs in a family, especially for adults, way back in the day, adults, when I say back in the day, like maybe 15 to 20 years, they used to light a fireplace in the compound, and people came, sat there, they have conversations, they did porridge there, we drank it. Nowadays, it's no longer as it used to be, but I did not know why that fireplace was. So many things were being said. The chases away, bad evil spirits and all those things. When my grandmother died, I remember one of her daughters telling her daughter her firstborn, and I've changed names to keep the anonymity of the people. Because when they read the book, they will think it's fiction. But yeah, but though my grandmother was called Nareiso, so I don't know if I did. So I had her tell her to light the fireplace because she's the first daughter or she's the first granddaughter of the from the ladies or the women's lineage, from the lineage, because it's Baganda are strange people, guys. So many customs, because sometimes the women are not recognized in the family because they're going to marry and what. Those are the problems I'm facing in my family, being the only man or the only son. So they told her to light the fireplace, and that's the first time I learned that the role of a fireplace, what it's supposed to do for the deceased, but also who lights it, more so when a grandmother dies. So that poem is birthed from that, but also because I told you I grew up in a Christian family, there was a time in our lives when they were telling us, you belong to Adam's family. Leave those Christian things, leave those Baganda things, they no longer matter. And I kept asking, like, did God make a mistake to make me a Muganda? To make us Baganda, give us this complicated and awesome structure of family that we have. Thank you so much. The book is outside there. You can buy it.
Very good book.
25 only. Thank you so much. And Loic, let's give a warm hand. He's beating too. Let's give him a very